welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. I'm Carolyn McDonald and I'm here with Christine Zivic and her film Adam. Let's take a look at a clip.
Actual units? No, you brought back those boxes. What about the rest of them? Still more to come. You're around yeah, no, it's good. You have more that I can bring back. It's like 3 more shows. Love the trash.
So welcome, Christine. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me.
And for people who haven't seen the film, can you give us a brief synopsis and tell us what the film is about?
Sure. So Adam is a film about a young man called Adam who has an auditory processing disorder, and it's kind of just a portrait of how he goes about his life and his struggles in his day-to-day life, like at work and with his friends, and how he navigates connecting with people.
And how did the story come to you? What was your inspiration for telling this particular story?
I approached the story through the subject more so than through the character. So my mother's an audiologist, and growing up with her in the house, like, you know, she liked to specialize in hearing disorders such as APD and like a whole bunch of other things. And so I remember as a kid just like seeing my mom's frustration in regards to this disorder, because it's so little is known about it, and it's often misdiagnosed. And when adults come to her later in life and they get diagnosed much later in life, they end up, you know, having gone through a lot of suffering because of it. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, so it was on my mind, and it had been on my mind for a while. I was just thinking like, this should probably be made into a film and like put out into the world, because people need to know about this, and hopefully people will take this more seriously too. And I think that, I mean, I met Adam through a Facebook post, because I mean, that's, once I decided I wanted to do that, I went on Facebook and a whole bunch of other social media platforms, and just asked around like who wants to tell their story about APD. Had a few people come in on the soundstage at UCLA, and like we interviewed them, and it was almost like a casting session, I guess. And Adam stood out, and what I liked about Adam is, I mean, he was older than the other people that came in, so he had gone through a lot because of this and experienced a lot of his disorder was invalidated a lot, which was kind of the issue I wanted to touch on. And I also felt like he just really wanted to tell this story, and like it would be good for him.
Okay. And once you met him, what was the process like of getting to know him and earning his trust and making him comfortable with sharing these issues with you?
Yeah, we had to get to know each other pretty quickly, because the whole shooting period was like a month long, and like we started shooting a week after I met him the first time. It was a lot of phone calls. That's not true. There were a few phone calls, but mostly text, because I figured text was easier for him, and it was. So just communicating in that way, kind of like touching base on just general life things. We hung out a few times too, like before shooting, just, we call it scouting, right? Like going to his place of work and listening to what he had to say, mostly. Part of what I wanted to do with this film is to portray the process of like gaining someone's trust, because that's kind of like what people who pass, you know, go through. They present a certain image, and then until you really spend time with them, you can't really like get to know them deeply. So that was kind of part of the whole process of filming, was to capture the first few moments that we met where there was a distance and we felt like maybe he was more closed off, until the very end of the film where we see him getting much more vulnerable, and that was the last day that I shot with him. And so I wanted the audience to go through that journey with us.
And even more with the physical production process, with having a camera, and how large was your crew? What was that like for him to interact with the crew, or being able to be natural, having cameras on him?
We were only a crew of 3 people. That was important to me, to not be too many of us. So I had a camera person, or a DP. I had my producer who did sound, and me, and that was it for most of the time. He got tired of us at some point. Like, he got tired of us, and he voiced that, and but again, I really felt like he was still willing. Like, he knew, he was like, you know, he would say, like, it's annoying to have you guys around, but I feel like there's more to say. I'm like, yeah, let's keep going, let's get there. Like, I'm not gonna leave until you're ready to, like, you know, completely push me away. So I don't know.
Yeah. Did he have a sense of, you know, in his desire to want to keep going, was it because he had a sense of the film being something larger to share with other people?
I think so. I think so, yeah. Yeah, I remember this one, most, like, the beginning of our production was mostly just kind of following him around, like at work and going out, and just kind of his day to day, or we would like drive around with him in the car. And so I wanted to do like one final day where we just like interviewed him for like 4 hours to kind of get a lot of like the VO came from that too. So we sat for a whole afternoon with him in his dad's living room and just talked, and I got so much about his life and like his family and all of these things, and by the end of the day, like, I was like, this isn't it. Like, we didn't really get to the core of what we needed to get to. But I had taken up so much time already, so I was just like, it's okay, like, we're gonna pack up and I'll make a film with this and it's fine. And as we were packing up, he was like, we didn't get everything we needed, did we? And I was like, no. He's like, what should we do? And I was like, well, do you want to go for a drive and we can just talk in your car? He was like, yeah, okay. And yeah, and that's when we got that moment in the end. So he instigated that, you know, and I went with that, I think. So I don't remember exactly what the question was. But
No, you answered it. It was like, you know, what he was, you know, did he have a sense of, you know, the film, you know, being larger for more people and things. Yeah, and tell me about the sound design of the film. It seems like you designed it to kind of take us as viewers through what his process was like, you know, in some ways. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so in pre-production, when kind of coming up or thinking about the subject and all these things, I knew that I wanted to do something that was experiential as much as possible. So there was that, I had that in the back of my mind. And then in terms of like how we were going to do it, I didn't have a clear idea in pre-production. The idea started forming as we were talking with Adam. Like, the more we were chatting and the more we, you know, got to hear about how he talked about his space, then we could pick up on like, what are the things that bother him? And he would say it a lot. Like, it seemed like it was really frustrating for him on a day-to-day like basis. So then, you know, after talking to him, that's when we started to like map out the shots and then, you know, think about the sound design. Obviously the sound design kind of like really came to life in post. And in that moment, like, that's when we kind of realized, like, we're making a film, it's not journalism, right? So we're telling a story, and if I want it to be experiential, it's more about the viewer kind of understanding the experience and what it's like to feel like enveloped by only this, and like maybe feel a little annoyed, but also not so annoyed that we want to stop watching the film. So it was, that's how we worked out the sound design, was like some based on stuff that Adam said, but I'm not like, I don't have APD. I'm not pretending that this is real, like, and exactly what he goes through. You know? But hopefully we can glean his discomfort from him.
Yeah, that others can feel his experience, really be subjective. And even while you were capturing that, his world around him, like going to work, getting a sense of his world and how he interacted with that. Can you tell us about how that may have changed during the process in terms of him seeing that he's making this film that's going to help others? And I guess maybe what I'm trying to ask is how he felt others saw him as going through this process.
The big thing with Adam when we met him is there was an issue with disclosure in the sense that he didn't talk about this really with anyone. Like he would, at work, he would ask for accommodations, but he wouldn't really go into detail about what and why. And this is a whole other thing where like people in general with invisible disabilities are like burdened with the like chore to disclose and explain constantly. And when you do explain over and over, you're kind of re-traumatizing yourself. And it's just a lot. So I understand that. And like, that's also kind of part of that. But so most of his friends didn't know about this. Most people around him didn't know he had issues, you know, hearing them. And so doing this doc, everyone kept asking, like, why are you being followed around? And so he would explain, like, I actually have this thing, and it's a thing, and to sum it up. And I think that helped. I don't know. So all of a sudden, like, his friends started having just like more empathy, it seemed like, and kind of likewise at work, like some people started becoming a bit more aware. I think it was uncomfortable for him to have us at work, just because of like office dynamics. But it definitely, having us there definitely pushed him to have to tell people what he's going through, sometimes with like a positive reaction, sometimes with a negative one, like the bowling alley scene where, you know, I don't know, to me that was just perfect. It's like, okay, yeah, you're having to like explain constantly what you're going through, but and then you do that and then people just like don't care. Yeah. So that was like the immediate effect of that, and then long term, I think going through that, and also just the conversations we would have on set when the camera was or wasn't rolling, I think allowed him to pay more attention to himself and his needs. And since then, he's grown a lot, and just kind of like, it seems like he got his life in better shape. Like he's healthier, and he's found a new place to work. And
great.
Yeah.
Great. And that's a great tool of a documentary, to be able to do that, to impact someone's life and offer, you know, growth for them and healing.
Yeah, I actually got, not long ago, I received a message from his sister on Instagram, and she just reached out to tell me like she had watched the film or seen the film at another festival, and that it just really gave her a lot of insight on her brother, and she had never known this or like the extent of it, and she was just really grateful. As a documentary filmmaker, I feel very conscious about how one-sided that relationship can be between the director and the subject. Like I always feel like we're kind of getting more from them than they are from us, or at least, you know, they sign an appearance release, and you know, then we can do like whatever we want with the material that we get. Like they don't have much control over that. And so to see that it's having a positive impact for him is, it's super rewarding. Like, it feels like it's a two-way street now. It feels like it's not, this didn't just benefit me. It was also good for him. So. Yeah,
and you could see that vulnerability in the film. You could see that trust that did come across, you know, that you had achieved that. You know, you really could tell in the course of his growth, you know, in the arc of his story. Very apparent. So one last question for you. How did you, you said when you started out you wanted to talk about, you know, this issue with people. So how, in doing that, how did you grow, and what did you learn as a person as well as a filmmaker during the process of making the film?
As a filmmaker, kind of what I just mentioned, which is like, it can be a two-way street, you know. Even though you find social actors or characters that seem really closed off, they might still want to tell their story. Mm-hmm. So you don't it doesn't have to be like this dance of like fighting to get them to say things. It's more of a facilitation. Mm-hmm. So that was a really cool experience. And then as a person, just how beneficial it can be to just like approach documentary with integrity, character portraits with integrity, and just openness, and that it's not only good for what you can get on camera, but it's also good for the person that you're working with. Amen,
definitely. And for the community, for us viewers, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm a fan. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. I really enjoyed talking with you. I really enjoyed the film. And best of luck with all your future endeavors, your new film. And one last question. Where can we find out more about the film, more about you?
I post everything on my Instagram account mostly, which is, my handle is @CZivic.
Okay.
That's where everything's going to go. I'm not sure yet if the film's going to have its own page. But yeah, everything's on there.
All right, great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.